un contenedor que a veces se usa.
And we went through some photos and to send to my dad, and it kept hitting me the photos that did something to me the most, and it was all the photos of him and I were together. And I actually wrote him a little letter about that, and
can you see though that the reason why the photos are in the later together, I think it was you the most, is because of something in your childhood about.
Well, I saw the love that was there, and I didn't feel love from him, but it was those times that I actually felt the love.
Supongo que es que ella se está comparando las dos infancias, ¿no? Inevitablemente el abuelo con Leila y su padre. Aquí creo que se refiere, no sentí el amor de él. Supongo que en su infancia, no sé. Pero sí que había momentos donde sí. Entonces, bueno.
And I wrote that to him today, that I thanked him for allowing me to see that love, and that my soul will carry that all my life. And I couldn't. There was so much abuse in our relationship, it just wasn't right. And people don't stay together when there's so much abuse, do they? But there was no man that I actually connected to, whether it was the law of attraction, codependent thing or what.
But you connected. So you connected to a man and he abused you.
I abused him as well.
Yeah, so
I was cruel verbally to him as well, and I didn't mean to be, but I couldn't cope with drugs and alcohol and trying to raise a child in a spiritual way.
Pero aquí ya no sé si habla de la pareja.
And I know he has that in him as well, and through his own stuff, he was in denial, and we were just a toxic mess.
but can you see? Yeah, this is relating to your relationship with your father.
Sí, o sea, se mezcla. En algún momento dado ha empezado a hablar de la pareja, seguramente. Entonces las fotos de la niña con... Claro, yo me he hecho un lío ahí, entonces he interpretado que cuando se refería al padre era al suyo, pero en realidad las fotos, ellos estaban separados y estaba viendo fotos del padre de Leila con ella, y no del abuelo, ¿no? A lo mejor.
Sí, es muy enredado, porque incluso cuando habló del hijo, estaba por casarse, yo ya no entendí también. Le dije algo que no pude perdonar, que no me pudo perdonar hasta ahora, y hay muchas figuras masculinas, sí.
Vamos a ver por aquí si le damos ese sentido. A ver. Algunas fotos, claro, eran fotos, claro, querían enviar fotos de la familia para enviárselas al padre, pero ahí no sé por qué se me ha ido la cabeza, ¿no? Las que más me afectaron fueron todas las de él, pero aquí ya se refiere a la pareja de ella.
Claro, claro, ella hace la...
Sí, a las de él y Leila juntos, y le escribí una pequeña carta sobre eso, a a la expareja de ella, debe ser de Cartia. Entonces,
sí,
lo que más le influye ver de repente que el padre de su hija está bien con la niña y eso le afecta a ella. Debido a algo en su infancia. Entonces yo veía el amor que había, pero ella no sentía amor de su pareja, ¿no? Pero hubo momentos que sí. Escribí eso y le agradecí. O sea, estamos aquí viendo cómo la relación de arrepentimiento con las parejas y los hijos que hemos atraído, ¿no? Afecta en darse mejor cuenta de la herida con el propio padre o madre de uno, ¿no? Y esas cosas. Le escribí, le agradecí que permitiera ver ese amor y que mi alma llevara eso toda mi vida. Supongo que quiere decir, pues eso, esa cosa buena. Pero había mucho maltrato, ¿no? En esa pareja. Dos personas no se quedan cuando hay tanto maltrato. Pero claro, es la pareja con el único que realmente conecté, ya sea por ley de atracción, codependencia, lo que sea. Sí que te conectaste con un hombre, pero él te maltrataba. Yo también, dice ella, también era cruel. No era mi intención, no podía soportar lo de las drogas y el alcohol. Y como ella intenta tratar a Leila de manera espiritual, ¿no? Criar a la niña. Pero sé que él tiene eso también, con sus propias cosas, o sea, tiene sus propias heridas, ¿no? Y estaba en negación de esas heridas, así que como pareja eran un desastre tóxico. Y ahora vemos esa relación de arrepentimiento en la que está entrando, está sintiéndose más compasiva con la situación general. Ahora Jesús le remite a la relación de perdón, ¿no? Puedes ver cómo esto, la relación con la herida que tiene que sentir con el padre. Sí, lo intento. Pero mi padre no era así, no era alcohólico, no era fumador, era adicto al trabajo. Así que, pero nosotros lo hemos dejado aquí. Vale, voy un momento al servicio. Si quieres conectar, a ver si rápidamente contesta alguien en el Telegram si escribimos.
Dale, escribo mientras, anda.
Y paramos un minuto y seguimos, pero bueno, es un poco...
No sé, igual ya le dijiste una hora, anda, tranquilo, vemos.
Bueno, vamos a terminar este caso y luego vemos. ¿Estás por ahí?
Sí, porque yo vi la hora que escribiste, dentro de una hora más o menos, y era las 10, así que para las 11, si terminamos, estás dentro del plazo que, o 10 minutos antes de las 11, y ahí nos organizamos, dale.
Vale, por aquí creo que lo hemos dejado.
I'm trying to, and I sort of can't get back there, you know? My dad wasn't an alcoholic, he wasn't a smoker, he's a workaholic. And I know I got hit a lot as a child, and I know, you know, I've been looking at it for years.
So who did the hitting of you as a child?
Who played?
Was it mum or dad who hit you when you were a child?
Hit me. Yeah. Mostly my dad. My mum could never cope with me, so you wait till your father gets home. Okay. And
Dad got punished.
Yeah, and I got punished, and
And then the rest of the time he worked too much.
Yeah, he worked a lot.
And so he was rarely there.
Yeah.
So what's the feeling you have there? See, what's happening at the moment is you can very easily connect to the trigger. And the trigger is your ex-husband. Right? That's the trigger.
Mm.
You can easily connect to that situation. But to actually take this to a core, you need to actually even go further than that and see the relationship between what you had with your ex-husband and the relationship of what you actually have with your father. That's the area you don't want to go to just yet.
I see what I mean. I hate that he was so angry, and as a child I remember at this age even thinking, I'm so sick and tired of having to be so nice to you so you won't crack.
Yeah.
And I hate not being me, I hate being somebody else. And I mean, I still was a horrible kid. I used to, don't slam the door, so I slam the door just so I power it.
Yeah.
And I do everything just for the power of it.
Yeah. And that's not, see, this is where the source of your bad, I'm bad emotions come from as well. The truth is you aren't bad.
I'm slammed.
The truth is you aren't bad inside. It doesn't matter who I ask. I can ask her or not ask her, it doesn't matter. You are not bad. The source of all of this problem of your self-blame comes from the fact of, firstly, there was this relationship going on with Dad and Mum where they projected huge amounts of emotions at you. And then you learn to blame yourself. And now, in fact, one way that you get away from dealing with a core emotion is you blame yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not helping you actually get to the core emotion, which is this terrible feeling of being unloved by your father in particular.
I feel it was right.
But as father in particular, that's defining the relationships, and it's the thing that's currently affecting David. But there is a deep resistance in you at the moment to actually touch that emotion.
Yeah, I even tried in here yesterday to keep going into it, and it's like, I mean, I've been trying to go deeper and deeper, and I've been asking God and praying to God and any spirit guides. I mean, look, I know things are like peeling off the onion a little bit because I'm seeing it around, and I was able to speak at my son's wedding last week, even when I came close to being able to say what I felt. And so I felt something, but then I went right down after my son's wedding, just really badly. And like I said, something just came up again this week that I changed. And I'm just trying to be humble and face the truth.
Aquí creo que dice ser humilde. Humble, creo que he dicho más bien. No sé por qué en la transcripción le habrá dado por hacer eso el... Ya lo he pasado también con el audio a la vez, después de preparar el texto, pero esto se ha colado ahí, no sé.
I've got 3 beautiful children, and it dawned on me that I love them. Having this one, I realise it's a different one. And I kept thinking, why do I feel differently about the others? And it's not them, it's me. And why don't I really love my parents? I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, and right now they're in an absolute mess and all of us kids should be there to help them. And we're all running the other way. And like,
I just had a thought when you were talking. You've obviously taken on a lot about your parents. You know, you feel you should love them, you should be there for them. So that's a lot of, you know, we were talking yesterday about the expectations of a family not necessarily being loved.
I actually can't hear a lot. I actually just feel what I think is happening.
But what occurred to me when you were talking, you're saying you're sort of really feeling blocked to go down into these emotions about your family, about your parents. You can sort of up here feel like, oh, maybe they didn't love me, but I can't actually feel it. So it just means that you're blocked. And sometimes it helps me to look at, well, if I do experience that emotion, what other emotion will it trigger in me? So for me, to feel that my parents didn't really love me is really threatening, because for all of my life I found it really hard to see love anywhere else in the world. And I felt it was there in my family. So to feel that there's no love in my family, then I have this whole other feeling, there is no love in the world. So maybe there's something there that's blocked, you know what I mean? Yeah. So maybe there's something there that's blocking you, that you sort of, in you know, if you go into that emotion, there's something really deep and dark under there, or maybe it's this sort of self-hate thing that you feel like, if my parents didn't love me, I'm unlovable. So there's a real block there to just feeling the grief about the parental relationship.
I know that I brought this up the other week up at ULO and I was so angry. Because I felt that I was ready to deal with it all and I felt like I was stuck in limbo.
And what you do, and I do this too, is you get really self-punishing about it. You say, and the same thing with your family, you feel you're responsible and you should be loving them and you're ready, but you're not doing it, so there's something wrong with you. Instead, if you can try and be like a parent to yourself, be quite gentle with yourself and say, oh, I don't want to feel it, it must be really huge. Why don't I want to feel it? What does it mean? You know? Because while we beat ourselves up about it actually just frees us up even more.
Yeah, I've been trying to do those too. And
But it's
obviously what you're saying, like I said to my friend the other day, I said, look, I'm getting these insights and visions of a child, and I'm getting the idea that it was this. But I said, maybe there's something under the core thing.
Can we just stop you there? Because feel what you feel right now. The feeling that you have right now with regard to your parents, as you mentioned, was that you feel like you're a bad daughter, right? And you're not looking after your parents. Now that's a really core emotion inside of you that began when your parents were young and you were a child. Does that make sense? So they actually created in you this emotion that of feeling bad every time they need help.
Yeah.
And you don't want to give it. If you got bad, and sometimes you got angry, and sometimes you got sad, and sometimes you did what they wanted. And so that's a really core emotion in you. This is one of the reasons why you're not allowing yourself to feel your own emotions, because you keep blaming yourself. You think, in fact, you like the words that you said were that my parents were good parents, but then all of the things you're explaining to us don't sound like they were good parents. Does that make sense? And the key is to actually say the truth. I don't feel my parents were good parents. I feel that my parents, they hurt me. My father came home and punished me, and I never saw him. And my mother kept on yelling at me during the day to wait till your dad comes home, and I lived in fear. Most of my days when I did something wrong, waiting for dad to come home. This is the state of your childhood. Now, whatever the emotions are of the parents and however good they are now, that was very, very damaging emotionally to you. And you need to allow yourself to acknowledge that. At the moment, what's locking up a lot of your emotion is you want to believe that everything is good for everyone else, and you're the person to blame. And that's just not true.
Yeah, and actually there's a little girl inside of you about Layla's age that is a bit pushed around by this adult you because she just wants to feel sad. She wants to feel really sad about what was happening. But the adult part of you is saying, no, it's all right, no, really I'm bad, and oh, I should have done this, and it's all my fault. And sometimes I felt so bad in my life, I don't even know what feels like. When my son got married last week, something's happened that he's just got this beautiful young, this beautiful woman in his life who's given him the freedom and trust that I could never have achieved. And I thank you so much for that. And my daughter and her husband. But I just feel so stuck in myself, and I'm just happy to share here.
We will stop doing a second, but one thing to keep in mind with all of this is that what's happening in life is that you're blaming yourself, and that's the way you get out of how you feel. The way you get out of how you feel, really inside, right deep down, is you blame yourself. Now, this is something that many of us do. What we do to get out of an emotion is we finish up blaming ourselves as if we're the person to blame. And when we do that, when we feel we're the person to blame, it helps us get out and skip out of lots and lots of different emotions. So it's used as a technique to avoid causal emotion. So what's happening for yourself a lot is as soon as we start on an issue, you immediately go back into blaming yourself every single time. So there was 3 or 4 issues that you brought up today so far, and every time I try to focus on what the truth is, like mum and dad were to blame for that, you wanted to blame yourself.
I took the blame for my siblings because
I know.
They couldn't take it.
But this is
as much as I got flogged, I wasn't going to cry.
This is your addiction. This self-blame is an addiction in you. You've become so addicted to it, it now defines you. Does that make sense? And to get to causal emotion, you're going to have to stop blaming yourself and see the truth of what actually happened. What actually happened was not your fault, but you want it to be your fault so that you do not have to feel the other emotions underneath that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to do it though, but it makes sense.
One way to do this from now on is every time you open your mouth to blame yourself, instead of doing that, pray to God at that instant. So don't open your mouth to blame yourself, but instead pray to God and say, I know you feel unworthy. Just say those words to God every single time you want to blame yourself. Because God actually feels you're worthy. God feels God wants a relationship with you. So God feels you are worthy, just as worthy as I am or any other person is, to receive their love. Now, you don't believe that at the moment, right? But if you can, every time you open your mouth to blame yourself, instead of saying, oh, it's because I didn't that is your addiction. Recognise the addiction. And recognise the addiction in every one of your relationships.
I know it's even felt safe to have the addiction because I know that.
Yes.
I came to that the other day. It feels good because I know that.
It's your
live with that.
Yeah, it's your safety place. And I know it sounds a bit strange, it might sound strange for some people to hear that that's your safety place, but in reality it's the safety place of many people. They are actually addicted to feeling their self-shame because they don't want to feel some other terrible emotions like feeling unloved by anybody, for example, is a worse emotion. It's better if I can just punish myself and say, I'm to blame for nobody loving me. Does that make sense? Now, I've been through this emotion lots and lots. Yeah. So I can understand how much it is to go into that self-blame place and how tempting it is every time. But if you do it, what you're doing is you're staying away from the real emotion that's going to help you grow. So you need to at least at some point start recognising this is an addiction. And you want to blame yourself so that you don't feel the other emotion, whatever the other emotion is. And just write that down or whatever, and then ask yourself, what is the other emotion? The other emotion might be, my mum and dad didn't love me. The other emotion might be, I'm unlovable. And that's the emotion that you can skip over. You see, if you're to blame for not being loved, that's easier for you to bear than just that your mum and dad didn't want to love you. It makes more sense to you if you're to blame for it. But it's actually not true. You're not to blame for it. You see where you need to go with that? So have a look at that. It's an addiction you have to blaming yourself. How many of you feel after that discussion that you've got an addiction to blaming yourself? No clue? I'll take that. So it's a pretty common addiction. And the key is to get out of that, because that addiction is stopping you from getting into the underlying emotion, which is even worse, like it feels worse. That's why we're doing the addiction.
Am I going to be like I was this week?
No, what you would do is when you get into the underlying emotion, you might feel for 2 hours and you'll come out of it feeling totally different. The problem with the addiction is it keeps you in that place for years and years and years and years and years. And then the underlying emotion, which needs to be released, can't get released. And so you can never feel different. But when you feel the underlying emotion. It might only take 2 hours, it might only take a day or two, it might not take long at all. Once you release the underlying emotion, the addiction will no longer be needed. Either you just give up the addictions, and also the cause of the emotion will be gone. And you feel totally different to what you felt before. Does that make sense?
I just wanted to say that I found, and I don't know if anybody else finds, that every time I'm pondering on something and then I turn one of the DVDs on, my head's just there.
Yeah.
And this week I got to the end of the DVDs that I had and I thought, well, now where do I go? And I just didn't want to even know about any of it anymore. And then I woke up again early in the morning, as I do. That's my time when I listen to them. And I went back to processing emotions. And it was exactly what
You were going through.
yeah. And so it's really, even though I can't choose what I do somehow, I still feel myself, and it's really wise for me to hear everything and rehear it, because it just keeps helping.
The time we make changes at the soul level, what happens is that our soul is now open to the truth that it wasn't open to before. And because it's now open to that truth, we now can assimilate something that we heard before, but we didn't assimilate it at the soul level. It only went in our head and it didn't go into our heart. But we'd like to thank very much Layla for her courage for putting Mummy in the hot seat. Where is she?
She's playing.
She's playing, that's good. She's relaxing, but she's starting to enjoy it.
I couldn't believe it. I said to her this morning, if you would like, it's your choice, come up and speak. Oh no, she's up on that guts. And I thought, oh well, that was what she felt.
No, that was what you felt, actually.
Yeah. Okay, but
She obviously does have enough guts.
yeah. Well, it was something about your son that she said that's what happened to me, And yeah, so you allowed Layla to come on. Thank you.
Yeah. That'll benefit the soul. There she is. That's really
And that also said to me the other day, since you've been coming to AJ, I keep getting sick.
yeah, that's probably true.
And I said, well, it's like this, maybe that the more that Mummy can work on this stuff, and that later on you won't be sick at all.
Yeah.
And she said to me, something about, how long are we going to keep going? And I asked her, is she okay about it? Because I just drag on because I don't have a babysitter for her. And she said, no, it's fine, it's fine. It's okay. And I asked her the other day, did you see any difference? Yeah, a little bit. So,
That's good.
thank you very, very much.
No worries, thank you.
bueno, aquí el tema de las emociones de sustitución, estas que son las adicciones emocionales, ¿no? Buscamos la vergüenza y la culpa, que es lo mismo que han hecho y que se puede haber absorbido de nuestra familia muy pronto. Por ejemplo, vergüenza sexual de las abuelas, de los abuelos súper pronto, y culpas, este sentido. Sustituimos con esas emociones más llevaderas, pero tan asesinas para nosotros, el yo herido, lo que está ahí más dentro. Entonces, porque hay un momento que ha hablado ha dicho, sientes la vergüenza, o sea, que más bien se refiere a vives en la vergüenza, ¿no? Claro, sientes la vergüenza, podría decir, si realmente la sientes, te diría Jesús, no, realmente accederías a la causa de por qué te la estás inventando, ¿no? No la sientes como un niño pequeño, como una niña pequeña, ni esa culpa, ni esa vergüenza, sino que las usamos para vivir con ellas, en el yo herido, que ni queremos mirar de la pena porque hemos sido maltratados todo el mundo.
Claro, que es distinto y lo hablábamos el otro día y creo que es una constante a lo largo de toda la verdad divina, lo distinto que también lo dijo Ramta hoy que recordaba, el beneficio de atravesar la emoción y la diferencia de vivir en ella. Sí, totalmente. Recordé cuando ella sube al estrado y dice, justamente con lo que terminaron, dijo, no sé si estoy lista para esto.
Sí.
La mamá, no me acuerdo ahora el nombre.
A ver, un momento que hay un problema de la cobertura, o sea, de la conexión. Ya no te oigo, dale.
Hola, hola.
Ahora te oigo.
Yo sí te escucho, yo te escucho.
Vale, sigue.
Claro, no, y decía cómo cuando la hija dijo en un momento, no sé si me animo a subir, y le dice Jesús, estaba expresando tu emoción. Y ella declaró también inclusive que Leila era distinta. Y lo que quería decir con esto era que Leila era distinta a sus otros dos hijos. Y claro, nosotros vamos, digamos, negando la causa, tapando los efectos. Claro, la ley de atracción es como que también redobla la apuesta para invitarnos siempre a conocer la verdad de lo que hay.
Porque ha sido un caso muy largo que ilustra un punto fundamental y con un niño delante que hablaba súper seria desde el principio, Leila, hablando que parecía una adulta describiendo lo que había pasado con la cartera de su padre y luego cómo cruza los brazos así para protegerse emocionalmente rodeada de esos adultos enormes y que están hablando ahí de sus cosas, pero Leila estaba expresando entonces, o sea, ha estado ejemplificando muy bien ese punto que es quizá el más fundamental, cómo los hijos muestran la ley de atracción para los padres. Entonces, un suceso que a Leila le podría dar igual, que sería el padre no quiere a mi madre. Bueno, pues ¿qué pasa? No hay expectativas, los niños no tienen expectativas. Sin embargo, le traumatiza, pero ¿para qué? Para mostrarle a la madre que ella está traumatizada con la falta de perdón, o sea, en el sentido que hemos visto, de volver a sentir la herida absorbida por lo de su padre y de su madre, pero es por lo de su padre. O sea, fíjate qué curioso, ¿no? Una niña no acepta, vale, mi padre bueno, está así, ya está. Entonces, como un evento neutral, entre comillas, se transforma O sea, que para o sea, neutral, porque la niña no tiene una ley, o sea, no tiene exigencias, expectativas. ¿Cómo eso se transforma para servir a la ley de atracción, o sea, por la ley de atracción funcionando para la madre, para servir con amor a la madre y esta cosa que en el fondo es tan simple y tan brutal y tan profunda, fíjate, sí, es increíble, ¿no? Por eso es...
Sí, y fíjate que yo miraba cuando ella relata, Leila, dice, sucedió hace más de un año.
Sí.
Entonces, entre toda la marea de eventos que pude haber recordado Leila de su infancia, por eso decía yo, y me pone en piel de gallina cuando te lo cuento, porque sigue siendo maravilloso experimentar y te te estremece realmente ver esa cuestión tan perfecta de lo que va a venir a colación, como acabas de escribirlo vos, y ella que el resonar de ella específicamente, capaz incluso como bien lo cuenta la mamá, activado por algo que cuenta Soul, y así, es un efecto dominó impresionante. Y mirá dónde termina, porque era la expresión de su conflicto básicamente. Siento que papá no la quiere, o sea, que papá no la quiere su mamá, pero bueno, en su escala era más para la madre, digamos. La verdad es que es sumamente maravillosa. Y cómo esta cuestión de que cómo se te ocurre, o ¿viste? Cada vez que nosotros hablamos de que existe la posibilidad de que no se te quiera o que no haya... Yo anoté cuando Sol dice, parece que tu papá no te quiere, le dijo Jesús. Entonces, claro, y teniendo en cuenta el parece como una posibilidad, pero que se abra esa posibilidad en vez de cerrarla, porque ¿cómo no te va a querer? O sea, ¿de dónde sacas eso? Viste que lo negamos porque a nosotros mismos nos duele mucho reconocer esa posibilidad. No, 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 ¿cómo no te va a querer? No, sí, puede estar enojado, pero no significa que no te quiera. O sea, como
Sí,
siempre llevamos a...
estamos ahí con sí, la doblez, siempre la mentira, como cuando es tan evidente que la gente no... Sí,
Claro.
sí, ¿cómo se crea la fachada tan fácilmente?
Y que Jesús le tuvo que relatar su propio relato para que ella lo escuchara desde otro lugar, porque dice, no, no, pero no eran nada buenos.
Mm.
Claro, ¿no? Sí, sí,
Y
sí.
ella yéndose siempre a la boda del hijo, de repente, y sin ton ni son. Ven, ahí una y otra vez.
Sí, sí, huyendo, sí.
Sí, que bueno, entonces vamos a hacer ahora a continuación, dentro de unos minutos, seguimos y vamos a incorporar a más gente, que ya está lista ahí, Marisol parece,
Vale.
y Ana de Venezuela a lo mejor también. Entonces, despídete del amado público y ya continuamos.
Bueno, ya
Muchas
continuamos en la siguiente.
gracias.
Estamos como en las novelas.
Sí,
No se pierdan el próximo capítulo.
no se lo pierdan.